All right, welcome to this week's market update in Austin, Texas. I am joined live by the one and only Mr. Mark Karetskiy. Mark, we're in the middle of December and there's a lot going on in real estate right now.
There is, and it is the busiest time of the year, and somehow there are buyers out there and they're making deals, and so there's some of the best deals I've seen since like late 2018, early 2019, and I am here for it, Jennifer.
Last week, we had 804 homes go under contract in Austin, Texas. And the week prior, we had closer to 700. So 100 more homes went on under contract before end of year. And we had, I think, somewhere around 560 or so homes close last week, which means people who bought 4, 6, or 8 weeks ago were closing in their homes and they're going to be in there for the holidays. So it's an exciting time of year.
It is. I just had an agent call me today. She said, "How quickly can you close? Can you get in before the 23rd?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got plenty of time."
One of the things I love about working with you is how quickly you can get our buyers into their home, and that is a gift. So let's talk about what's going on in the housing market, starting with the fact that JP Morgan has made a massive multi-billion-dollar announcement just this week.
So we've also talked about it in previous episodes that some of the institutional money has been sitting on the sidelines, and JP Morgan announced, and I guess made all of the headlines last week, that they're potentially going to become the largest landlord in America. They're looking at the Atlanta area specifically, but when you're a big institution like these guys, you have billions of dollars under management, and that's a massive liability, especially in these inflationary times. And so when you look at investing from that level, real estate and hard assets is by far and away the best hedge against inflation. And so they're doing it. I'm surprised more buyers aren't actually seeing the same thing.
Well, I think buyers are seeing it, but the way the media spins it, when buyers are buying, it's overpriced. And when institutions are buying, it's a sale. So the exact same information is being spun. And we as buyers need to consider the fact that if these big institutions are building and buying homes, we may want to clue in that we too want home ownership. And I'm not suggesting that everybody goes out and buys a home. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what hat are you wearing and what ears are you listening with right now? Because it's the same information.
At the end of the day, we all need a roof over our head. And so as long as somebody is stable where they're at financially and mentally and responsibly, like, they should own a home. But like you said, it's not for everybody. But the more and more I look at the average American, whether average millennial or average kind of 40 to 50-year-old, really the ones that are jumping into the market or jumped into it in years past, they are significantly ahead of their counterparts. And it's really no surprise to me, but it's all from their real estate.
Oh, no, there's no question. I mean, there's so many studies on net worth and the ability to buy now. And I honestly, if you had kids putting money away now or buying with friends, and where they would be able to profit down the road is far outranks anything that they can do from a working perspective to get out in the workforce right now. So I hear you loud and clear.
You're absolutely right. When JP Morgan is talking about doing it, they're talking about launching massive communities that are just, they are building with the sole intention to rent these properties out. When we're looking at investors buying in the traditional market, they're, in reality, that we need to look at that inventory as that inventory is gone forever. Because the reality is it'll never come back on the retail market ever again, right? And so the demographics, like we've talked about, and I'll bring up time and time again, they're pointing to the fact that we simply don't have enough shelter, never mind owner occupied or tenant occupied. We simply don't have enough shelter for the coming demand. And so these guys are getting ahead of it, and they're going to make a lot of money from it.
Absolutely. I mean, I forget what the numbers are that we talked about, but what were the numbers, Mark, in Austin, Texas, about the number of millennials we have coming online that are of home purchasing age?
So I'm not going to make it up. I can pull it up if you want, but it's a lot, right? Like, it's in the tens of thousands, and that's per year. And the
And we
reality
can't build fast enough. and we don't have enough homes available in that price point for first-time buyers. And we're seeing these companies come in and buy homes that are not going to be for sale. And we are going to see the American dream like vanish if things don't turn around.
I don't want to be an alarmist, but like home ownership is the most American thing I can think of, right? Like that is why I have such a passion for what we do. But at the end of the day, like non-Americans, anybody living outside of America, they may not actually have a right to own property in their country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to honor that. We need to respect that. And at the end of the day, we need to leverage it for what it's really meant to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about jobs now and what's going on in the marketplace. We know that, besides San Antonio being such a huge tech capital, Austin is a massive tech capital. And there have been so many announcements about global layoffs or international layoffs. What we're seeing in Austin is they are minimal versus the big numbers that we are hearing.
Well, it seems like that is, at the end of the day, what we say about everything, right? Like the news is the alarmists. They are the ones that are creating the clickbait articles and then actually going into more details about what's going on locally. But you would be the expert on that. So, I mean, do you know any of those numbers? Or I guess for the YouTube video, can we link those in the show description for others to be able to read about?
I would have to look them up. Like when we're hearing these numbers of thousands of people from Facebook, Meta, or thousands of people across, Austin may see 100 or 200 families that will be affected. And I am not sneezing at that at all. I'm just saying that as a linchpin for a lot of these tech companies, Austin is not taking the type of hit that a lot of other places are. So, from an economic standpoint, we're seeing a lot of people keeping their jobs.
We all just hope and pray that it continues to be that way, right? And what we need to do as professionals is realize like nobody's got a crystal ball. And at the end of the day, that's why like ensuring we as individuals are financially responsible and actually living within our means and not stretching our budgets just to keep up with the Joneses. That's where it's so critical in the good times that we develop these habits, because inevitably the good times end and bad times come, and the bad times end and the good times come, right? And so I think we see today Americans that have been setting aside, and especially in Austin, I mean, some of these young professionals, my age, younger, a little bit older, we've just been sitting around. I've been around real estate since I was 21, so I've been in the game, but a lot of others have really just stayed away from it. And so they're well capitalized, they're well desired, not never mind at their current job, but with all the job openings out there, like their demand for their talent is through the roof. And so there's a lot of people that are going to be able to capitalize on it. But at the end of the day, like there will be some pain, there will be some hurt. And really, that is just the world we live in, right? Like it is a normal cyclical thing, and it can't just be a party until from here on out, right?
Yeah, it is cyclical, and it's been that way since time in memoriam. What we're seeing is the popularity of clickbait. And to your point last week of people not reading the full article, it's just like, what can we do to hook them and drive them in? And so the economic picture in Austin right now is solid. Like when we look at the creation of density and what we have going on, say on Rainy Street, when we look at the price points that our luxury condominiums are holding over the $1 million plus mark, when we look at what is being built in the extension of retail spaces across the city, when we look at the proliferation of expansion outside of the Austin markets, and we look at Round Rock and Hutto and Leander and Liberty Hill and going south and closing the corridor, there is no sign of slowdown whatsoever in the workforce and in the space where people are moving to Austin, Texas. It's just not slowing down, even though we are seeing a dip in prices.
I really think that San Antonio to Austin Metroplex that's coming together is one of the greatest investment opportunities for anybody, whether it's buying for a primary residence and just holding it, or for investors. But that is really, if we went back in time and we saw the development of DFW and think about all of the money that was generated by actually building it into a metroplex. That's literally what's going on down there, and it's super exciting to see.
Well, it is. We have twice the distance from DFW to Fort Worth is like half the distance of Austin to San Antonio. But hey, Elon Musk has a boring company. And if anybody's going to close the gap on our ability to make quick transit between Austin and San Antonio, I kind of think he's our guy right now.
You're absolutely right. And at the end of the day, there are people that are going to want to be able to have access to both cities, right? Like they offer different things. And so in the middle there, if they're able to create some sort of attractions and create a lifestyle out of them, I think that would be really attractive to a lot of people.
Absolutely. When we look at New Braunfels and San Marcos and those major cities and we're watching them grow, folks are willing to travel. They're willing to get on the highway for 30 minutes and do the drive because their money is going that much further than it is currently in Austin.
That, and we got some great speed limits here in Texas.
We do. So that said, there is no speed limit on what is happening with our taxes here in Austin, and our investors, our small mom and pop investors, are getting hammered right now because they've all received their tax bills.
There's tax bills, but there's also a lot of talk about rent control and rent protections in both Austin and Dallas and a lot of the major cities. And it is spooking out investors. And I'm seeing a lot of them actually consider putting up their inventory, and they've got 10, 20, 60 doors that they're potentially letting go to be able to actually invest and redirect in other communities. And so we need to get a grasp on not just taxes, but really look at the reality, which is we need inventory for occupants, right? And really, there's no better way for somebody to make money and actually invest in their community besides actually owning that investment in that community, right? And paying those income taxes to that community. And so it's on each and every one of us to really be involved and hold our county officials responsible and actually make some noise about this.
Yeah, well, listen, Mark, the reality is, though, when you've got a house in Austin that's, let's say, 15 minutes to downtown, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, couple thousand square feet at most, and you're an investor and your taxes go up by $3,600 in a year, you're going to pass that along to your renter.
You have to.
Yeah, which is over, $300 a month for that renter. How many of those renters are going to stay?
Overall, it's not a good thing, but we have our tax situation the way that we have it set up, right? Like it's down to the Constitution. Like our counties have the ability to tax our home value based off of our market value. We have the homestead protections, but for investors, they really don't have that. And so it's something that we really need to get a grasp on. Let me just speak as myself, as a transplant coming to Texas. We come here, we look around, everything is more affordable than where we left, right? And so what does that actually mean is going on here locally? Everything's becoming more expensive, right? And so I don't see that course reversing because of just the way that everything is going. And the taxes are going to be a huge problem. We also have an actual surplus in the state, right? We have a surplus in the counties. And so we have the ability, we have the mechanisms to actually take that surplus and actually get it to the homeowners. The problem is it ends up getting stuck at that county level, right? And so it, like I said before, it's on each and every single one of us to be involved in our county.
Absolutely. So that said, if you are an investor and you are thinking about a single family residence in Austin, Texas, and looking at affordability, I urge you to sit down with Mark and really tumble numbers and understand what those numbers are when it comes time to not only a mortgage, but where it comes to your write-offs and all of the things for your net operating income. And what are those costs that truly you are taking on, and what are the costs that you are looking to have a renter take on so that you can have your property actually leased out. So if you're tuning into this, take a look, because Austin is not a very easy place for the average mom and pop to make money right now. It's just not.
No, it's not. And another thing that's not easy is actually finding a good investment calculator that actually works well.
Do you have one?
I do, but it's completely proprietary to us. But if you want an investment analysis run, All I need is an address, purchase price, estimated rent, and I got you from there.
Awesome. I'll keep that in mind. What do you want to close us out with today, Mark? Middle of December? What are you thinking? Where are mortgage rates going?
Where are mortgage rates going? Well,
Are we
so
going to stick for the rest of this year, do you think, with the Fed announcement coming up?
So we've got a big report tomorrow, Tuesday the 13th. Today's the 12th as we're recording this. We've got the updated CPI that's coming out. A lot of this depends on what that report shows, and then not just that, but really what is the market reaction to it. And so you would not have asked me at a worse time. Right now, rates have come down from their peak and their height in October. They're in between the 6 and the 6.5 range right now, depending on where you qualify and the type of loan that you're doing. What I would tell you is right now, I think we could get a little bit worse, but the reality is we will rebound and it will come down. And so what I'm seeing is since it came down from October, we've seen a lot more buyers step in to the market. We've seen a lot of these buyers actually start to get outbid. And so I would actually urge anybody, if the rates are coming up, homeownership is right for you, take advantage of it because other buyers are using that as a reason to sit back. And so whether they go up, whether they go down, doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what matters to you.
Yeah, well said. And that 10 years from now, if you buy a house today or you buy a house in a couple of months, you're really not truly going to notice the difference, especially if you're sitting on equity, especially if you want to look at either a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down, which we have discussed in other shows. So feel free to look those up. But if you're sitting on equity right now and you have some cash that you can play with, Mark has some great systems that are available that will still allow you to buy at last year's rates, and that could potentially save you a whole lot of money. Just buy if you're buying based on affordability today, stress test your budgets, and know that if in a few years those rates go down and it makes sense to refinance, then refinance. If they continue to go up, know that you can pat yourself on the back for doing such a great job because you got in on the market.
You're absolutely right. There's nothing else I can add to that.
Awesome. Well, it is the second week of December, wherever you are, whatever you're up to. Mark and I hope you are having a wonderful month. And please tune in next week. And please feel free to comment below. We'd love to hear from you if there are any particular topics you want us to discuss about Austin, density, investing, real estate as it pertains to residential or other. We're chopping it up for mortgages. We're talking about all sorts of things, and we are going to get back to some more fact or fake coming at you a little bit more regularly. So we're going to have fun with that. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone.
Pleasure as always. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you
Happy
next time.
holidays. We'll see you next week, Mark.